Welcome back to Tying That Guy. I'm Wes Chatham. And this is my good buddy, Franck. Hello, Ty.
Cadillac? I like Cadillac. That's good.
How are you doing, buddy?
I'm okay. I'm sad because, last episode we talked about passing of Carl Weathers. So now we need something to lift my spirits. We need something to fill me with joy. So what better thing to talk about to fill me with joy than the horrific murder of a bunch of attractive people?
And that movie's called X. And I thought I was original because I watched that movie and I was like, oh, this is like Boogie Nights meets Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Which
actually,
is my literally everyone said afterwards.
Which, hold on. Actually, it wasn't even that spot on. It was, my first thought was, oh, this is Boogie Nights meets Friday the 13th. And then everything I read started out with Boogie Nights meets Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Then I'm like, fuck, not only am I not original, I'm not as spot on as everybody else in the thing.
You were derivative and bad at it.
I am a derivative of an unoriginal idea.
Yes.
So X. Now, Ty and I talk many hours on this podcast, this highly successful Academy Award winning podcast. Hundreds of people don't listen to this, but we got ones and tens, and we love horror movies. We do love horror movies. The slasher genre is my least favorite in the genre if it's not Halloween.
Yep.
But I really enjoyed this movie.
See, I don't think this is a slasher. It follows the slasher conventions, but it's doing something much more interesting with that than
that's
typical.
That's interesting. I want to hear why you don't think it's a slasher.
Well, for first off, the girl who survives is not the virgin.
Yeah, but that's not.
But it's also the slasher is a very static formula. So the first Halloween movie created the slasher formula. It really did, and everybody's been copying to a lesser degree what Carpenter did with Halloween ever since. The unstoppable killing machine who murders people for, like the sort of puritanical thing of like the kids who get high and smoke drugs and have sex with each other. They're the ones who will get murdered by the unstoppable killing machine. And the moral lesson is blunt. There's no creativity to it. It's just that over and over and over again. And the thing they did with X is they set up what appears to be that and then don't do that. They keep, like, the killer is not an unstoppable killing machine. The killer is an old lady, a crazy old lady, right? And her husband who's trying to protect her because he's been protecting her from the consequences of her actions for years. And the characters that get killed, yeah, they're not puritanical. They're having sex with each other, but we like them. They're likable people. Right? They're not contemptible in the way that like the murder victims in this typical teen slasher movie are. Kind of want them to live, and they're kind of sad, right? Like there's this sadness to them, and the life they're leading, and their dreams of what their lives could be, and their dreams of the future feel very understandable. It's just, and there's not a ton of killers. That's not like we brought 20 people out here so we can watch all 20 of them die. It's a few kills, but each of those kills are really, really hit me. Like I didn't want that person to die, which is very not in keeping with the slasher formula. Is we're just waiting for people to die and we're rooting for the deaths. In this, by the time the killing starts, I'm hoping they get away. I don't want them to die. There's one character in this that I wanted to die, and I was kind of bummed that he didn't die more horribly. I'm talking about the director.
Yeah. He died pretty fucking horrible. He got shanked and his head cut off. He died pretty fucking horrible. Yeah. What is horrible in your book?
It was too.
It was too tame that she cut his fucking head off.
It was too sudden. Like he was dead too quick. I wanted him to.
You wanted to be tortured.
I wanted him to suffer a little.
You wanted to be the dude in the basement that was tied up with his dong out.
Oh my God,
that's who you wanted him to be.
That's the worst.
So being tied up in the basement with the dong hound.
Yeah.
You had that experience.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, I hate that.
I hate when that
doing
happens. God, if I had a nickel for every time.
Well, I think it defied conventions, but I would consider it in the slasher genre.
Sure, for sure. It is absolutely. It's just it is a unique take on that genre, an unexpected take on it.
The motivation of the kills, I always find interesting. Now, you probably want to do a quick setup before I.
Yeah, we can't. It is a horror movie, and by the way, it is one of the things that you and I talk about with horror movies is the best horror movies are horror plus something, right? So you got Alien, which is horror plus sci-fi. There's a lot of different horror plus, right? And I think the best ones are ones that find creative ways to do that. This is slasher plus, and the plus is it's the adult film industry. It is, like you said, it's Boogie Nights meets Chainsaw Massacre. It is.
I created that.
You created that. You were the first one to say that, for sure.
I coined that term.
Absolutely. The first one to even think it. The setup is you got a bunch of people who are trying to make a low budget porn, and they're going to use it to finance these other things that they want to do. So it's like, yeah, we're going to go shoot this low budget porn movie, and then when we sell it, we'll have money to do these other things. And they rent a farmhouse out in the middle of nowhere to shoot their movie. And unfortunately for them, the farmhouse is owned by an old couple that seems quite harmless, except she is fucking psycho.
They're creepy as fuck.
Creepy as hell.
They're creepy as fuck. Yeah.
And her husband clearly knows that she's psycho and has been protecting her from the consequences of that for years. And it very quickly gets out of control when she shows up and she starts doing creepy stuff, and he's trying to protect her from getting caught, and everything just goes downhill from there.
One of the things that I think is interesting about this movie, you were talking earlier about slashers and the moral code within slashers.
Yeah.
This one is kind of moral chaos.
Yes.
Like morality doesn't have, and it doesn't really, you can't tell what's going to happen to the characters based off their morality.
I love that phrase, moral chaos. I think that's great. Perfect description.
And you have a generation who's coming from the 40s and 50s. And then you have a younger generation that's moving in from at the tail end of the sexual revolution. This is 79.
Yeah.
So this is right before Reagan and how Reagan.
It's before AIDS.
Before AIDS,
Yep.
before the politics infused with the evangelical Christian movement. And so these kids are 1979 are free, horny, and they want to be stars.
Yep.
And guess what? If you are free, horny, and want to be stars, and this was also the beginning of the VHS movement, right? And this was the beginning of making these home videos, and they're like, holy shit, we're smoking hot, we want to be stars, and we're horny. Let's make some.
It's also a time period where there were a few breakout hits in adult
Debbie
film.
Does Dallas.
Yeah, that and Deep Throat, and so you had these movies that were entering mainstream consciousness, right?
Right.
Porn was no longer just a thing weirdos looked at in creepy theaters in Times Square. Now it was a thing that like people were talking about, like renting pornos to take home to watch with their wife, which this was the first time that had happened. So it was this moment when you believe that people think they can become stars by being in a successful porno. There was a period there where people were starting to believe that it was possible to cross over. That people were starting to believe that you could be successful enough in porn that you could actually cross over into mainstream media. And it started to seem like a legitimate path. I mean, it never really worked out that way, but people believed it was true. And
I think once the public sees your asshole, there's no hope, dude. You're not going to be a movie star.
Yeah, probably not.
Yeah. Now, what do you think about the prologue?
What are you specifically asking about?
When the sheriff comes and you're in the aftermath of the crimes, and then it goes and it flashes back to the.
I almost don't. The reason I asked is because I don't even remember that prologue. It feels unnecessary. I think even when I was watching the movie, it felt unnecessary.
To me, you are creating this compelling story. Mia Goth is staring at the mirror. She wants to be a star. She's doing cocaine.
Yep.
You got the feeling of the 70s. You get a feeling of who she is, what she wants. It's got this great, colorful bunch of people. They're going cross country to go make a porn movie. And then you start to reveal the creepiness of these people. But the mystery of not knowing what's going to happen, I think would be more compelling and way more interesting.
Agree, but I also, and maybe it wasn't a studio note. Maybe the writer did this on their own, but it feels like a studio note because the thing that, so people who read scripts, especially at the studio level, they have a very specific formula in their head for how movies are supposed to go. This thing has to happen by act 5, by page 5, and this thing has to happen by page 12, and this thing has to happen by page 20. Like they've internalized this formula to everything. And I could see somebody reading the script and go, it takes too long to get to the horror element. And because of that, people won't think it's a horror movie. They'll watch it and they'll go, why am I watching Boogie Nights? I thought I was watching a porn movie, or a horror movie. And so is there something we could do to signal that the horror is coming early so that after 40 pages of not being horror, people are still engaged? I could totally see that happening.
It's just so stupid because
you and I agree. Start movies where they start. Don't do this flash forward.
And the more you get lulled into, because there's plenty of interesting things going on in the first act that you don't need the horror element. You got other things that's really compelling that's happening. So you get pulled into that excitement of the movie and excitement of these people, and you get excited in the thing. Then let the horror be a surprise. You got enough foreshadowing when she's swimming and the lady's spying on her, and you got all that stuff. Yeah. But it steps on the shock of it all, because you're seeing mutilated bodies on the ground. You're seeing these and how they're reacting to it. Anyway, that's a personal thing. I think that I would have liked to see that. But I will tell you this, the thing that motivates all the horror is one of my favorite motivations, and I find it very spooky because I think we've known people, the loss of beauty is really a loss of power, and that loss of power can be scary. And like Sunset Boulevard did such a great job of that great movie star who was on top of the world, and then she aged out of that, and she was so deeply involved with her persona and who she was that she had no identity past that point. Yep. She had no idea, and so she held on to it. She clinged to it, and that to me gets really scary. There's this one of my favorite Twilight Zones is, I think it's inspired by Sunset Boulevard. But this old movie star locks herself in a room and just watches her old movies over and over, and they're trying to get you. You saw this one, and they try to get her out and everything, but she's so delusional, and she believes, like, she starts talking to people as if the movies were real and she's in those movies. Yeah, and she shows up they try to give her a job, but it was to play a mother. And she freaked out. That's what snapped her. Yeah. And then she went back in the room, and she was so focused on the movies that she ended up becoming she went inside the movie. So when they couldn't find her and looking around, and they look and they see her, she's in her movie. Not her, the old her is in her movie. That's the Twilight Zone. Yep. So you have these young, sexy people that still have their dream, that are going after their dream. And then you have this lady in the house who did not get her dream and doesn't have this freedom and this sex appeal and this power, and it infuriates her, it enrages her. And that motivation is really creepy to me. And I got it right away. Did you get it right away when Mia Goth is going swimming in the pond and the lady's watching her from the woods? And there's like something, and actually I didn't know that was Mia Goth. Right. I didn't know that she was playing both parts. Yep. Really great job.
Yeah. And so in the prequel movie Pearl, it's a prequel because it's the story of that old lady, and she's played by Mia Goth. Yeah.
Would you be interested in doing that, or did you?
I didn't love Pearl. I didn't like it nearly as much. My writing partner, Daniel Abraham, he He loved Pearl.
Did he like it better than X?
I don't know if he liked it better, but he's much more of an art film guy than I am. I thought Pearl was a little boring, a little too art film for me. But Daniel likes those art film kind of movies.
Yeah. What does Daniel know? But that when she the way that she admires the younger version of herself is so off-putting to me.
Yeah.
She invites her in for the lemonade, and she's sitting and she's staring, and she's like, look in the mirror, look, wanted to show her young pictures of herself. I used to be beautiful.
Yeah, it is very creepy, and it is it's a very kind of Hollywood thing. I mean, obviously the movie X is set in a version of Hollywood. It's like, that's why people compare it to Boogie Nights, because Boogie Nights is set in the adult industry version of Hollywood. And this is sort of set in, we've seen tons of movies of the young person who's going to go to LA and they're going to become a star, right? We've seen that story many times. And there's a reason why that story is compelling. This is the sort of 90 degrees off version of that, which is the young people who are going to like make a porn movie and then they're going to be stars, right? So, but it's that kind of story, and so much of that story is about physical attractiveness. And, the person who goes off to Hollywood to become a star, it's because everybody she was the prettiest girl in her hometown, and everybody said, "Oh, you're so pretty, you should be an actor." And so she goes to Hollywood, and then you go to Hollywood and everybody's hot. And you're like, "Oh, wait, I'm not the prettiest girl in town anymore. And now I'm working as a bartender," right? So it's that story, but now we've got the version where it's like, we're young and we're pretty and we're going to make this porno and then we're going to be big stars. And then you've got the people who envy that beauty, they envy the thing that gives you your power. They want it for themselves. They want to take it from you. There is something creepy about that whole idea.
Well, the husband is the caretaker from Let the Right One In, right? He's the guy that fell in love with this beauty, and he knows she's a monster, and he kind of like enables her behavior and protects her at the same time.
Yep.
Like, I don't think he would be a killer without her.
No. You're absolutely right. And I think that's a good comparison, the caretaker from Let the Right One, where it's, you become sucked into it by your obsession with the person that you're caretaking. Yeah.
And that's the power of beauty. This guy, and do they go into that in Pearl? Does she meet him?
Because it's the young version of that character. So you see,
who plays that guy?
I don't remember who played that character in Pearl. Remember?
Only until researching this did I learn that Wayne was not Luke Wilson. I thought he was Luke Wilson the whole movie. Does he not look just like Luke Wilson, or is that just me?
That's just you.
It's just you.
Oh. I thought he was like spot on Luke Wilson. And Gina Ortega, she's turned into a scream queen. I love what she's doing with her career. She pops off screen.
She does.
You see her, she was the sound engineer in the beginning, and she really just pops. She catches your eye. She has that it factor.
So I mentioned at the beginning that there's something about this movie that there's like this sadness to it, right? That obviously the old couple, there's a sadness there that she's crazy and he loves her and he's trying to protect her. But there's a sadness to the other characters too, because they've got such dreams. And we, living in the future, knowing what the 70s were like, know that none of those things are going to happen. Even if nobody murdered them, none of the things that they hope are going to happen are actually going to happen, right?
Yeah.
And the other thing is, the thing that they get right. So porn stars, at least like the 70s, 80s version of a porn star. And as a kid who grew up, where the porn you watched was from the 70s and 80s, they were always sexy, but they were never beautiful. And that is the thing, is like the blonde lady, she's sexy. She has that 70s porn star energy, that sort of Ginger Lynn kind of energy.
Right.
But she's not classic Hollywood beauty. Right. And that's the other thing is this sort of, because of that, there's this sort of kind of tawdriness to it that I think perfectly nails that like late 70s, early 80s porn industry kind of feel, where it's just like, they're never going to be Hollywood stars. Now, obviously Mia Goth is a Hollywood star. So I'm saying, but in the setting of the 70s and in the settings of the 80s, they're just not going to be. Ginger Lynn's never going to become a mainstream Hollywood star. She's just never going to do that.
Oh no, that's that's part of the beauty of it. Like
Right.
they're making a porno movie in the outback of Texas
Yep.
on a VHS, or not even that, Super 8 camera.
Right.
And they think that they're going to be big stars,
Yeah.
and this is what it's going to happen. It's also, there is a strong like love of indie movie feel to it. There's an indie vibe to it. You know, how much the director and his love of film and Gina Ortega and their relationship is connected and bounded by film. And I think there's a lot of Ty West, the director, in that. Now, I haven't seen. Have you seen in his movies before?
Yeah.
This is my first Ty West film.
Oh, it is. He's made some movies I really like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, what are some of the ones that maybe I've seen them?
Hold on a second. I'll get the list up here, but there's some.
Because I saw this movie and I was like, man, I really like this filmmaker. And then I looked him up, and then I was like, I don't know if I've seen him before or seen his movies before. But once I like a filmmaker, I'll go back and watch everything.
Yeah,
he's
let
done.
me tell you the ones I really like. So there's a movie that came out in 2000, I think like late 2000s, like 2009 or 10, called House of the Devil. I have great admiration for House of the Devil.
Wait, tell me the story of that.
House of the Devil is like a classic again, and I think Ty West is stuck in the late 70s, early 80s. I think his sensibility is stuck there, which I'm fine with. I'm totally fine with that.
So are we.
So are we. House of the Devil is a late 70s horror film made in 2010. It's about the girl, the babysitter, who goes to babysit for this couple in this kind of creepy old house, and weird shit starts happening. It turns out like devil worshippers are coming to like try to sacrifice her and all this stuff. And it has that very sort of late 70s kind of horror movie feel to it. He also did The Innkeepers, which is, again, it's that late 70s, early 80s horror movie. It is these people who are working the night shift at this creepy old hotel that's getting ready to be shut down. And there's only a few guests. And it turns out like some of those guests are up to no good and some weird shit starts happening. He loves making that kind of movie, and I'm here for it.
And you know what I really loved about this movie is it was a movie that was set in 1979.
Yeah.
But it doesn't comment on movies set in 1979. Yeah. It's not satire, it's not parody. It's like as if you made a movie in and it's not nostalgia porn.
Right.
They don't wallow in the fact that it's 1979.
Right.
So I always say, like, if somebody's going to make an 80s movie, make a movie that would have been made in that year. Don't wallow in the nostalgia of it all, because unless it's Stranger Things, that type of thing. Like, I enjoy those things too, but I like the idea that this movie took itself seriously. It was a legit horror movie done in 1979 that had a lot of that style, but then it played a little bit with the conventions that you went into of the slasher movie.
And you mentioned that there's this love of film to it. Porn makers in that period were guerrilla filmmakers, right? I mean, the porn industry is all guild and unionized now, but at the time it wasn't. At the time it was any idiot could pick up a Super 8 camera and film his neighbors having sex and make a porn. There's still that feel of we're the last guerrilla filmmaker, right?
Yeah.
Where you get a shitty camera and somebody to hold a boom mic and like one light panel and you're just shooting, right? You're just like, you're out in the woods, you're just shooting. And there is that sort of the love of that style of filmmaking comes out of this. This movie definitely sort of has that aura of, we're guerrilla filmmakers. We're doing the last real indie filmmaking, but it's porn instead of horror, but it's that same idea.
What did you think about the porn stuff in this movie, in X?
It felt very of the time, right?
It did. Yes, I really. And then the part where Brittany Snow had spooge on her back.
By the way, the most hilarious and realistic part of the entire movie, where you're like, yeah, somebody would have to come in with a towel.
Yeah, and then she just tossed it off the bed and hit that thing like that. But I saw that and I was like, that is the most graphic image. That is the thing that you don't see in the porn.
You never see the person come in with the towel and wipe everything down.
Yeah, and it's like cut, in those moments like that. One of the interesting turns in the stories, you get to know these people. They're making porn. They show up to the thing. They got spooky people that are around. They're making the farmer's daughter. The first big interesting turn is when Jenna Ortega decides she wants to be in the movie.
Yeah. Yep. Her boyfriend is not having it.
Yeah. And when she was saying, when she said something about a huge dick, and her boyfriend was just like, oh, just winced, you know, and it's like, and to see that, and he was not having it. What is that actor's name? He did a good job of like being a jealous little ninny.
He's been in other Ty West stuff. I think he's kind of an indie guy. I think he's been in a bunch of indie movies. Yeah.
Yeah. But because like you said, you're motivated at that point because he's so controlling and so insecure.
Yep.
And he gets in the shower and he just starts crying in the shower. And you're like, Jesus Christ, like this poor fella. So he gets his keys. He's fucking leaving. He gets in there and he's the first kill. He's driving out. You got the Don't Fear the Reaper on the radio, which is cool.
By the way, one of my favorite songs of all time.
I love that song. And he gets out of the car and it's the older lady and he's kind to her at first. Like, are you okay? Are you lost or whatever like this? Now, I'm going to say something. Watching this movie, now it all makes sense. I did not know it was Mia Goth.
Yeah.
Right? For whatever reason, I didn't get the ick factor from her. When she's trying to seduce him, there's a part of me, it's like, see what it's like, dude. You know what I'm saying? It's better than a shank. And now I know it's because Mia Goth was under all that makeup,
yep.
You know. And maybe it's like, maybe she didn't move like an old lady. Maybe there was like some kind of youthful spirit because there was still something, there was a soul in there.
That's how you know somebody is genetically sexy.
Yeah.
When it doesn't matter what you put on makeup.
It doesn't matter.
There's something still exuding from them. Yeah.
Because I felt a little weird. I was like, am I into older chicks? Like, because it didn't ick me.
Right.
You know, the guy did. The old guy did. But when she was like seducing herself in the bed, I was like, kind of want to see what happens.
Wow.
Well, maybe we should cut this out.
All right. So now we know what Wes is into.
Well, did it ick you out?
It did. It icked me out.
Okay, it icked me out. I'm joking. It was gross. It was all gross. It was horrible. I mean, when the old people were banging in the bed above Mia Goth, like that was gross. You know, I felt gross about that. Anyway, that was gross.
I was actually mostly impressed by that dude. Like, you're that age, you don't have any blue pills, and you're still just getting it on. All right, man.
Yeah, he rocks the house down. I think he knows it's the end. I think he's like, I'm gonna give you one last, because he's talking about his heart the whole time.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, you know, he's the guy on the way out of Let Right One In. So he's like, I'm not as good as I once was, but I'm good once as I once was. And then and you know, throws it down there. But she's horny. Is she horny like that in Pearl?
I'll let you watch Pearl without giving you a bunch of
you know what?
context.
But obviously it goes way beyond being horny. There's a certain connection that she is craving and that she needs, and she also needs to be looked at the way she once was. She needs to be able to turn people on the way that she once was able to do.
And there is a reason why sexuality and violent dysfunction are so often connected. There's something about having something really wrong with your brain, like like serial killers and that kind of stuff, that connects those things to sex. So it doesn't surprise me that for her, violent dysfunction and her sexuality are so intertwined. That's very common. And I don't know, and I guess it's just because they're such deep-rooted parts of the human psyche. Maybe that's why they wind up getting mixed together. So I'm going to get off topic for a second, but did you ever watch that show Dexter?
Yeah.
Okay. And there were a lot of conversations about why Dexter was, like, people weren't grossed out by him, even though he was a serial killer. And Daniel had the best analysis of that I've ever heard. Daniel said the thing that Dexter did is Dexter's violence is disconnected from sex. But every serial killer, that is not true. Almost always the violence and the sex are connected in some way. And so by disconnecting Dexter's violence from sex, they made him okay. They made him palatable.
And the sexual ones are way more horrifying than if it's disconnected from it.
Yep. Exactly.
Like,
that's where the horror comes from, that sort of connection between sex and violence. And that is the horror of this character. That's the horror of the Pearl character, is that her desire to be desired and her desire for sex and all those things are so intertwined with her violence and her rage that that's the classic serial killer mix.
Now, when they got into the killing and the horror part of it all, I enjoyed it, and I really like this movie, and I get but there's something about, like, the older lady's very creepy and mysterious to me, but there's something that is a lot like, she's not Michael Myers in the sense of, like,
she's not an unstoppable killing machine.
She's not an unstoppable killing. She's a very fragile killing machine. And I think she probably would have thrown her hip out just by stabbing, the first kill when she cut the guy's head off, So
yeah, I mean, the danger of her is protective coloration, because you're never going to suspect she's going to kill you, and that's what makes her dangerous, right?
But once shit starts going down and people are not showing around, once you get on guard, it's going to be a lot harder for them to kill.
Yeah,
I think
I'm much more scared of the old dude with the shotgun.
Yes, to me, that to me the scariest killing and the most compelling one is when him and the Jackson,
the actor,
went around, the actor looking around the pond.
Yeah, and you know it's gonna go bad, and you just, the tension of that scene, and he's a likable guy. Like this is what I'm talking about. So the thing that works for me about X is that these are not the idiot teenagers that you can't wait to see them get stabbed by Michael Myers. These are people where you're like, I kind of want him to live. He seems like an okay guy, and he's nice to the old man. And I
love the scene.
Yeah,
I love the scene when he's standing out of the door and you see the shadow of his dong swinging between his legs, and I'm like, geez.
Well, there's a reason why he thinks this is the industry for him.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I take it as a personal insult that the porn industry has never come knocking on my door asking me to star in films. I guess I just don't have the swinging equipment.
To me, that was the most compelling kill. What did you think of the sexuality with, like, her and the old man banging over the bed that Mia Goth was there?
I think it's a weird, creepy scene, and I think it's absolutely perfect for this movie.
To me, I mean, but with the exception of Jackson, the killing wasn't as interesting to me than these characters and what's motivating the older people and what's motivating them. In the scene when they have that really creepy, gross, like, sex over the bed, that was the most interesting to me, because then you saw,
because you're into old lady porn.
Because I'm into old lady porn, but you saw, you got a sense of their life together,
right? That
this guy worships her and adores her, and basically she's a homicidal maniac, and he caters to that.
Yeah,
he's not a killer at heart. He probably wouldn't be killing people if it wasn't for her, and that is compelling.
Yeah,
that is interesting, and there's a true love story between them. There's like a dysfunctional, because, like, let the right one in, the girl could care less about the caretaker, but she really cared about him.
Yeah, it is creepy. And it is the most horrific element, is their weird codependent relationship. But the thing that I think makes it work is, if you're just regular dude, because, and I think this is the aspect of Pearl that I think does work, is if you're just regular dude and the sexiest girl in town is interested in you, like, there's a reason why guys do a lot of stupid stuff, because they think it will impress girls. Guys are stupid that way. And I look at that and I go, if I'm just like single dude hanging around and a Monica Bellucci lookalike comes up to me and goes, I think we should get married and we can have lots of sex. Now, I do occasionally murder people on the side. I'm going to need you to cover that up for me. There's a version of me that goes, yeah, no, I get it. Okay.
Yeah, that version is the guy sitting in the chair right fucking now talking on the microphone. There's not an alter ego. It's fucking you. If you would have met murderous Monica Bellucci when you were 18, just coming out of your cult, you would be living in Texas right now.
Oh, yeah.
Franck
question.
would not have.
No
you
question.
would not have met Daniel. Would not have written The Expanse. You would not be a podcast superstar. You would be living.
I'd be smoking people with a shotgun.
Smoking them with a shotgun, going to get food and deliveries, and having an Airbnb in your guest house so you can have fresh meat every weekend. And you'd have a dude in the basement with his dong out tied up.
Yeah.
And by the way, that was a nice touch, that guy in the basement, to really show that this is an ongoing thing.
Right. This isn't one-off.
Yeah, this is not a one-off. This is an ongoing thing. Another thing that is possible in 1979 that is not as possible today. Like, I wonder how many people like this that existed that we don't know about. How many Texas...
Yeah, part of the reason why this movie works as a movie set in 1979 is this is not a thing that could happen 20 years later. Right? I mean, the first thing that would happen is you'd have Yelp review. Crazy old lady tried to murder me, would not stay again, 1 star.
Was that a review?
No, I'm saying if you went to that place nowadays, that would be the thing that would happen, right? There'd be Yelp reviews going, creepy old lady tried to murder me, 1 star, would not stay again.
That is fucking hilarious. Yeah, exactly. Like, creepy old lady had sex while I was under their bed with her old ass husband, killed all my friends. They're getting a 1.
1 star. The Yelp reviews for this place are terrible.
Making me laugh. My neck hurts.
But yeah, this was a period when it was possible to just disappear, right?
If I was a homicidal murderer, I would rather live in the 70s than now.
In the South,
it's
where
harder.
you were good friends with the sheriff.
Yes. Because, Ty, I'm telling you, it's hard to get away with murder now. Really hard.
Except only about half of murders are solved. So it's still easy to get away with murder. But the trick now...
Is it true?
Yeah.
Is that true?
Yeah, only about half of murders are solved. But the trick to getting away with murder is you don't try to cover it up. You just shoot the person and walk away. I mean, that's...
No, the trick is not having motive.
Yep.
So I bet the statistics are different between people that
if you murder your wife, you're probably going to get caught.
You're probably going to get caught.
If you just shoot some dude walking down the street because he's in a rival gang, it's very hard to figure out which gang member shot him.
And serial killers or people, they're hard to catch because there's no motive. You can't track it.
Well, there is a motive, but it's not an obvious motive, right?
Yeah.
It's like, he's murdering these women because they're 5'2", they're blonde, and they were wearing black shoes at the time, and that's his weird serial killer kink. It's hard. It's not the same as he murdered her for the insurance money.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, if you got in your car right now, drove to Portland, parked in a parking garage, walked out, sniped somebody in a park, went back in the parking garage, got in your car, drove back, they would never catch you, probably, because you have no reason to kill that person. There's no reason to do that. Ty's like, have you been watching me?
I have a friend who's a cop who said that the if you want to get away with murder, the murder that we never solve or almost never solve is you get a shotgun, you load 1 shell into it, you drive over to the person's house, you knock on their door. When they open the door, you shoot them at point blank range with the shotgun. You turn around, you walk, you get back in your car, and you drive home. Because the only shotgun pellets leave no ballistic information. There's no rifling, right? It's just pellets. It's almost impossible to trace the gun that they came from. And the only testimony that anyone will get on you is eyewitness testimony. Like, a neighbor was looking across the street and saw you walk up, or they saw your car and they can describe the car, whatever. And he's like, eyewitness testimony is absolutely the worst testimony in court. A good defense lawyer shreds eyewitnesses every time. And he's like, you get away with that shit.
Hold on. Wait, I don't know how I feel about you putting this information out on the airwaves.
This is a public service podcast. We are helping people better their lives,
people,
and get away with the shit they need to get away with.
You know how popular this podcast is. There's a ton of people listening to this right now.
Next week, there's going to be like hundreds of shotgun murders.
Yeah, there's like 8
listeners will all go shotgun murder somebody.
If there's 8 shotgun murders, then there's all 8, all fucking 8 of the people that listen to this show are murderers.
Now, look, everybody has one person that they want to murder. Everybody has one person. Right. They're like, if I could get away with it, that's the person I would go kill. Everybody does. And I just told them how to do it. So now they're all going to go out and they're going to take that one person out. That's what's going to happen.
Joseph has two. He has two people that he really wants to murder, especially if we go over this hour.
Okay.
I gave him my word. Okay. Is there anything else you want to say on this movie?
No, I mean, if you haven't seen it yet, and we just spoiled the shit out of it, but if you haven't seen it yet,
if you haven't seen it, don't listen to this.
This movie is worth watching. It's a really interesting take on the horror movie genre, on the slasher genre. It's got some really interesting, creepy scenes in it.
It's fun.
Mia Goth is a fucking rock star. The first time I saw her was in this weird indie film I saw years ago about this guy. It's like a post-apocalyptic movie where this guy's living in the woods all by himself and growing enough food to keep himself alive. And then a mother and daughter show up, and the mother sells the daughter to the guy in exchange for food. And the daughter that she sells is Mia Goth, a young Mia Goth. And even back then I was like, that girl's a rock star. She's going to be huge.
Is it a thriller?
No, it's a weird indie.
The Survivalist?
Maybe it is. It's just a weird indie film about a guy living by himself in the woods, and then this mother-daughter show up and screw up his life because he buys the daughter from the mother and it messes everything up for him. Anyway, but she plays the daughter in that. And it's the first time I'd ever seen her on film, and I was like, oh, she's really interesting. There's something super interesting about her. And ever since then, she's always made interesting choices, I think.
Yeah, and this director, Ty West, who I do not know how I have not heard of him, or like, I mean,
seriously,
I think I
go
actually
watch House of the Devil. You will love House of the Devil.
And I think I actually might have heard his name and read about it in like certain things like that. But I really enjoyed this movie. I'm gonna go back and watch everything he's done, and this movie was a lot of fun. And if you like this genre, you definitely need to watch this movie and support this movie. I also love the idea of this movie. I want people to make more of these types.
Yeah, I agree. This sort of, I don't know what the budget is, but it feels like a $10 million movie to me. This sort of $10 million indie film horror movie. I think these are incredibly interesting, and I think more people finding ways to make movies like this would be really good. Wes and I are going to make our $10 million horror movie the minute Wes has $10 million.
Friendship Basement.
Yeah, Friendship Basement.
You know, the guy in the body in their basement, we got to get him and just put him in our basement.
Yeah, because he's the guy who always winds up in the Friendship Basement.
And they just don't even comment or make a note about it.
God damn it, why does this keep happening to me?
No, he's dead. He's dead. You just have the whole movie and never explain him. It's not. It's like Chekhov's gun that never goes off. That never is explained.
Well, and then we'll get a franchise, because every horror movie has to be a franchise now. So there'll be the Friendship Basement franchise. You know.
Do we have a top 5, Joseph?
We do actually. Now I was under weather, so I was not able to.
You know what?
Get it out
we
to
don't
the
need the
patrons.
preamble of your pathetic excuses. Just give us the fucking list.
I swear, I need a tramp stamp on my back. This is Wes and Ty. We're here.
A24 horror films. Interesting. I was at the first screening of Green Room. I love Green Room. I think Green Room is awesome.
I love that movie.
I think Hereditary is a really interesting movie. I really like Hereditary. What else? I haven't watched Lamb yet. Lamb is on my list. I haven't seen it yet. I watched Men with a friend. A friend and I watched Men. I don't know that I love Men.
What is Men? What is that? Tell me about it.
It's super weird. You need to watch it. It's trippy weird.
I liked. I enjoyed the lead up in Midsummer. Yeah. Midsommar.
I think Midsummer's okay. I mean, I enjoyed it. It's really well filmed. I would say I like Blackcoat's Daughter way better than Midsummer. Blackcoat's Daughter is another.
Well, there's 5 in there. We can throw both of them in there.
I'm a big fan of Blackcoat's Daughter. If you haven't seen Blackcoat's Daughter, you should watch it. You will like it. It's very got that early 80s weird devil worshiper kind of vibe to it. And I may be the only one who loves this movie. I love Saint Maud. I think Saint Maud is amazing. It is the weirdest fucking movie, and I love it. It's slow moving. I think a lot of people who are into horror would think it's boring. There's nothing about that movie I don't love. And the actor who plays the main character, she wound up playing Galadriel in the big Amazon Lord of the Rings TV show. She plays Galadriel. That was the first time I had ever seen her, was in Saint Maud, and I remember watching that movie and going, it's the same way I felt after watching Mia Goth in that survivalist movie, where I was just like, this person has something. They are going to be a rock star. So Saint Maud, I'm a huge fan of.
I didn't see Saint Maud, but that director is really interesting. Rose Glass.
Yeah, I do. I also love The Witch. I think The Witch is great, and of course, The Witch. Talk about a rock star actor. It's got Anna Taylor-Joy. Yeah, or Anya Taylor-Joy.
Yeah, Anya Taylor-Joy.
Yeah,
that was her. So like Midsummer, Samar. It lost me when the old lady grabbed the dude's ass and started pumping him. You remember that? I laughed so hard in that moment that all the tension just left the movie for me.
Yeah.
But the buildup was the mysterious, the atmosphere, the people jumping off the cliff. The
people jumping off the cliff
themselves.
was one of the best shock moments in a horror movie I've ever seen.
Yeah. I think there's 5 in there.
There's 6.
I love The Witch.
The Witch is fantastic. You haven't seen Saint Maud, so we can take Saint Maud out of there if you want to, but
okay.
I think it's fantastic. You also haven't seen Blackcoat's Daughter.
Blackcoat's Daughter.
I think The Blackcoat's Daughter is the best movie on this list.
I need to see that one. It's been on my list to watch.
Yeah.
You think it's better than Saint Maud?
Yes.
In Green Room?
Yes.
Oh, I got to see this.
So should we put X up there, or?
I mean, I really, really like X. X is great.
Excellent. I think that's a good top 5. And so you think Blackcoat's Daughter is should be number 1?
Of the list of A24 films that I have seen, Blackcoat's Daughter is my favorite.
Okay. And then Green Room, Hereditary. Where is Hereditary in that list for you?
I really like Hereditary. I thought Hereditary was so creepy. It was so well done, so well made, and and Hereditary kept doing things I didn't expect. Like I watch it and I go, oh, here's the story they're building up to, and then nope, that ain't the story they're building up to. They're doing something completely else.
It's hard to surprise you in a horror movie because
very hard to surprise
so many.
I'm very difficult to scare, and I'm very difficult to surprise. So if a movie can do either or both of those things, it immediately goes right to the top of my list.
Excellent. Thank you guys for hanging out. We love you. Please don't go murder somebody with a shotgun. Fucking Ty does not understand the power that he wields with his fame and fortune that he's gotten through this podcast.
No.
And I feel like he's being a little bit reckless.
Let me.
And I just want you to know.
Let me just put a little addendum to that. If you do kill somebody with a shotgun, please just ask yourself, is this somebody that I think Ty would want to be dead? And if the answer is yes, go ahead and shoot him.
Say goodbye, Ty.
Goodbye, Ty.